So students must create and bake a pizza. I identified this as needing a holistic checklist. You may have put something different, which is okay, depending on how complex of a task you're thinking that this might be, and how many skills you're sort of testing, right? But I identified this to be pretty simple task-wise, and that a checklist would allow me to assess the students as following a particular order in which to create a pizza, right? Like rolling out the dough, adding the tomato sauce, blah, blah, blah. And it's holistic because I think all of those skills can be discussed in sort of listed in one area, and that could receive one score alone. For number 2, I chose this to be an analytic checklist. In my mind, the project was to include specific areas, such as an introduction, a timeline, maybe the early life of the person, the schooling, the education, the private life, those sorts of areas. And so as long as the student was able to complete each of those areas in a good way, the checklist allowed me to identify if they did a great job or not, a satisfactory job in each one of those areas. Okay, number 3, students must conduct an experiment to melt metal with magnets. I added this as a holistic rubric, although I could see how a checklist would work here as well, because it's about the different steps. I'm thinking that the experiment, there is usually just one particular way in which to complete an experiment successfully. And so that's why I wouldn't break it up into its different skills, because all of those things can be described in one section and given one score. For number 4, I chose a holistic checklist because there are definitely specific categories to a book review and what it needs to contain, and so the score could be based on grouping all of those together, giving one score if each of those components were sort of present. The last one, I chose an analytic rubric because I think that speaking is a very complex skill that is made up of different aspects, such as the phonology, also syntax, also vocabulary knowledge, fluency, being able to understand receptive language, those types of things. So I chose analytic because each of those aspects that I just listed would be different components of that rubric, which then would receive or could receive different scores, right? So in my mind, perhaps the student uses a pretty wide range of vocabulary, right? So they would be rated quite highly on that. But the fluency needed work, right? Where they were stuttering or they were pausing a lot, and so they would get a lower score for the fluency, and that's why I chose an analytic rubric for that. Again, your choices might differ from mine, as long as you can describe or justify why you chose what you did and your idea of the assignment and the assessment that you're trying to do. I'm sure any sort of combination would work as long as it sort of meets the goals and objectives of the assignment. Okay, in activity 2, I would like you to create an appropriate rubric, okay, for assessing student performance regarding a given objective. So choose from one of the following student assignments. Number 1, students must write a book review of a fiction book, or number 2, students must evaluate their own speaking ability. So what I'd like you to do is choose one of those objectives and design a rubric based on that objective. Note that your class includes that the class includes ELL students with a range of proficiency levels, so you should keep in mind that the range of scoring scales is specific enough or sensitive enough to capture the range of abilities of those ELLs. And also, you should follow the guiding steps that I provided to you previously on the slides beforehand. What I'm looking for is for you to create the rubric. I have different examples for you listed in Activity 2 sheet. You could look through these and try and come up with your own. And I'd like you to, with the rubric, provide a paragraph where you discuss and describe why you chose this particular rubric and how you went about being able to come up with the different scales, come up with different weighting points, and how you described each level, okay, on the rubric. That is something that I would like you to post to your discussion board for this week. And then once you're done, I would like you to comment on at least 2 of your peers and their rubrics. And I would love for you to talk about the pros or talk about, give them feedback, in other words, to how they have created their rubric and if you see room for improvement or aspects that you really liked. Okay. So the objectives this week, students will be able to identify authentic and alternative assessment measures. Students will be able to discuss problematic aspects of standardized assessment. Students will be able to distinguish holistic and analytic types of rubrics. And students will be able to design and create the appropriate rubric for a given situation. That's all for this week. Thanks very much. See you next time.